Clara Monroe had always been the kind of journalist who chased whispers, the kind that drifted through dark alleys, slipped from nervous lips, and echoed in the halls of power. Her curiosity was both her greatest strength and her most dangerous flaw. It had pulled her into stories others feared to touch, costing her sleepless nights and strained relationships. She believed that every secret had a pulse, and if you listened closely enough, you could hear it thrum beneath the surface of ordinary life. In the small coastal town of Harrow's Point, where the salt air clung to every surface and the waves whispered secrets of their own, Clara had stumbled upon something darker than she ever expected. It started with a single, cryptic email that arrived in her inbox one stormy October night. Subject: "They're watching message. You're getting too close, Clara. Stop digging. For your own sake. A friend." Clara's heart raced as she reread the message, her fingers trembling over the keyboard. She had been investigating the rise in missing persons cases in Harrow's Point, a town that, for all its picturesque charm, seemed to swallow people whole. She leaned back in her worn leather chair, the ancient springs creaking beneath her slight frame, and glanced out the rain-streaked window of her cramped apartment. The street below was empty, just a foggy stretch of cracked pavement and flickering streetlights. The wind howled through the gaps in her window frame, a mournful, hollow sound. She had already dug too deep to turn back now. She clicked over to her notes, the screen casting a pale blue glow that painted shadows across her tired face. Names, dates, and red flags. People who had simply disappeared, a fisherman, a retired schoolteacher, a teenage girl. And then there was Martin Yates, the local historian who had vanished just a month ago, leaving behind a cluttered office filled with old maps and cryptic notes. His final email had been to her, and it had contained only one word: eclipse. Clara had spent weeks trying to decipher its meaning. She had visited his office, sifted through chaotic stacks of parchment and brittle, yellowing documents, but had found nothing that made sense. She knew she was close to something that felt like a heartbeat in the dark. As she flipped through his notes, she found an old photograph, a grainy, sepia-toned picture of a woman standing on a windswept cliff, her long hair flowing behind her like a banner. Clara's heart clenched. The woman looked eerily like her own mother, who had disappeared when Clara was just a child. The resemblance was too strong to ignore. The same sharp cheekbones, the same intense eyes that Clara saw every morning in the mirror. Suddenly, Clara's determination took on a personal edge. She felt a surge of fear mixed with a desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, her mother's disappearance was connected to whatever dark secret had consumed Martin Yates. Perhaps she had been closer to the truth than Clara ever realized, swallowed by the same shadows that now threatened to consume her daughter. Driven by a newfound, deeply personal desperation, Clara returned to her apartment that night, her mind racing with the impossible connection between her mother's disappearance and the dark forces haunting Harrow's Point. She pulled out an old photo album, her fingers trembling as she flipped through the faded pages. There, near the back, was a picture of her mother, standing on the same cliff from Yates' photograph, her long coat blowing in the wind, a distant, haunted look in her eyes. Clara sank onto the edge of her bed, her heart breaking under the weight of 1,000 unanswered questions. Had her mother known something too dangerous? Had she whispered the wrong secret into the wrong ear? Or had she been pulled into the same darkness that now threatened to claim Clara herself? That night, Clara grabbed her battered leather satchel, threw on her raincoat, and headed out into the storm. The wind whipped at her face as she stepped onto the wet pavement, her boots splashing in shallow pools of rainwater. She pulled her coat tighter, feeling the weight of her recorder and notebook pressing against her side. She was ready to face whatever waited for her in the shadows of Harrow's Point. As she approached the old Yates house, its crooked silhouette looming against the storm-lit sky, she felt a shiver run down her spine. The windows were dark, the garden overgrown and choked with weeds. She hesitated on the creaking front steps, her breath coming in short, shallow bursts. She reached for the brass doorknob, its cool surface slick beneath her palm, and turned it slowly. The door groaned open, revealing a hallway choked with shadows. The air inside was stale and cold, carrying the faint, musty odor of mold and forgotten memories. Clara stepped inside, her footsteps muffled by the thick, threadbare carpet. She fumbled for her flashlight, the narrow beam cutting through the darkness, illuminating dust motes that danced like lost souls in the air. As she moved deeper into the house, she found the small study where Yates had spent his final days. The walls were lined with shelves overflowing with books, old manuscripts, and crumbling photographs. His desk was cluttered with papers, a half-empty bottle of whiskey, and an ancient, leather-bound journal. She flipped it open, her breath catching as she saw the final, frantic scrawls of a man clearly consumed by fear. Eclipse. They come with the wind. Shadows in the water. Whispering voices. I've seen them. They know I'm close. Clara's pulse quickened as she flipped through the pages, her eyes skimming over sketches of strange symbols and frantic notes about whispered voices and moving shadows. She found another photograph tucked between the pages, a grainy, black and white image of the coastline, with a small, dark figure standing at the water's edge, its face turned toward the crashing waves. Clara's breath caught in her throat. And then, from the darkness behind her, a single, rasping breath. Clara spun around, her heart slamming against her ribs as a figure stepped into the narrow beam of her fallen flashlight, a tall, shadowed figure with long, flowing hair and a dark coat, its face hidden in the shadows. It took another step forward, its soaked coat dripping onto the cracked floorboards, each droplet sounding like a distant, echoing heartbeat. The air grew colder, the darkness pressing in around Clara as the figure paused, tilting its head as if listening for something. And then, in a voice that sounded like the wind itself, it whispered a single word. Eclipse. The flashlight flickered once, twice, and then went out, plunging the room into total darkness. Clara's scream echoed off the stone walls, her voice lost in the darkness as the shadows closed in around her, their whispers rising once more in a deafening, chaotic chorus. And then, silence. Outside, the storm raged on, the wind howling through the broken windows of the old house, carrying the echoes of Clara's final, terrified cry into the endless, storm-tossed sea. Would you have go back to the house if you are the one in Clara's shoe? Let me know in the comments section. Like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching.